The ability came without warning on an ordinary Tuesday morning, 5 years into my marriage, and the first thing I discovered was that my mother loved me most in the world. I was sitting at the breakfast table, nursing a cup of coffee, and watching Lucy smear mashed banana across her high chair tray. My wife, Ruby, was humming something soft and tuneless by the stove, flipping pancakes with the practiced ease of someone who had done it 1,000 times. The morning light was spilling through the bay window, catching the copper highlights in her hair, and I remember thinking, in that exact moment, that I was the luckiest man alive. Then I looked at my mother, who was visiting for the weekend, and I saw it, floating just above her head, translucent and golden, like a hologram projected from somewhere inside her heart, a list. A ranking. 1 me. 2 Dad. 3 Lucy. 4 Ruby. 5 her book club. I blinked. The list didn't disappear. I looked at my best friend, Daniel, who had stopped by to return a lawnmower I didn't remember lending him. Above his head, another list shimmered into view. 1 his newborn son. 2 me. 3 his wife. 4 his dog. 5 the New York Yankees. I looked at the bagel shop owner down the street, a gruff Ukrainian man named Yuri, who had never said more than 5 words to me in 3 years. Above his head, a list. I was ranked 6th, wedged between his granddaughter and his favorite line cook, 6th that I had made Yuri's top 10. The warmth that spread through my chest was almost giddy. And then, with a smile still playing at the corners of my mouth, I looked at Ruby. 1 her mother. 2 me. I was second, after 5 years of marriage, after the mortgage and the toddler and 1,000 small frictions that wore down even the strongest love, I was still her number 2. Her mother was number 1, and that was fine. That was expected. Her mother was 83 years old and lived alone in a condo in Boca Raton, and of course Ruby would rank her first. The important thing was that I was second, that I was on the list, that I mattered. I walked around the rest of that day in a haze of joy. I was my mother's favorite person. I was my best friend's second favorite person. I was even Yuri the bagel guy's 6th favorite person. And I was Ruby's number 2.5 years, and she still loved me that much. It wasn't until late afternoon, when the sun had shifted and the breakfast dishes had long been cleared, that I noticed the rest of Ruby's list, the names below mine that I hadn't looked at them before. Why would I? I was second. That was all that mattered. But now I looked. 3rd was her sister, Margot. 4th was Daniel's wife, Elena. 5th was her childhood friend, Priya. And 6th was a name I had never heard before. Oliver. I stared at it, waiting for the jolt of recognition that never came. Oliver, not a colleague. Ruby talked about her colleagues constantly, not a friend from her book club or her yoga studio. Not anyone she had ever mentioned in 5 years of marriage, just a name floating in the golden light of her internal ranking, holding steady at 6th place. I told myself it didn't matter. I was second, he was 6th. The gap between us was an ocean. I went to bed that night with Ruby's head resting on my shoulder, her breath warm against my collarbone, and I didn't ask about Oliver. The next morning, he was 5th. The morning after that, 4th would be by the end of the week, he was 3rd, and I could feel him hovering just behind me, a presence I couldn't see but couldn't ignore. Ruby's behavior hadn't changed. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings. She still texted me during the day, sharing photos of Lucy's latest art projects. She still reached for me in the dark, her fingers tracing the lines of my face. But Oliver was climbing. Day by day, rank by rank, he was climbing. The night he reached number 2, tied with me, our names shimmering beside each other in the golden light, Ruby came home from work, wrapped her arms around my waist, and pressed her face into the hollow of my throat. I missed you, she murmured. I feel like I haven't seen you in days. Ruby, I said quietly. Who is Oliver? Her arms stiffened. IT was barely perceptible, a split-second tightening of her muscles, a pause in her breathing, but I felt it, I felt all of it. She pulled back just enough to look at my face, her brow furrowed in what might have been confusion, or might have been the first crack in a facade I had never noticed she was wearing. Oliver, she repeated. I don't know anyone named Oliver. Why do you ask? The lie was so smooth, so effortless, that I almost believed her, but I could see the list above her head, and Oliver was still there, his name pulsing gently beside my own. No reason. Just a name I heard somewhere. She smiled and kissed me and told me she loved me. And I smiled back, because that's what you do when you've been married for 5 years and you're not ready to believe that everything you've built is about to collapse. Oliver, I spent the next 3 days in a quiet spiral, pretending everything was normal while I scoured every corner of our shared life for clues. Ruby's phone, which had always been an open book between us, was now passcode protected. Her laptop, which she had always left open on the kitchen counter, was now closed and tucked into her work bag. She was still affectionate, still attentive, still the same Ruby she had always been, but the list didn't lie. Oliver was climbing because Ruby was thinking about him, and she was thinking about him more and more with every passing day. When Oliver reached number 1, I stopped pretending. His name sat alone at the top of her ranking, glowing with a soft golden light that seemed to mock everything I had believed about my marriage. I was second now, second after 5 years, after Lucy, after all of it that I watched the list for another 2 days. Oliver held steady at number 1. And then, on the 3rd day, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Lucy's name, our daughter's name, had disappeared from the list entirely. Ruby's ranking had only 8 names now, and our daughter was not among them. That was when I understood this wasn't just an affair. This was something else, something that had consumed her so completely that even our child was being erased from her heart. The woman who had held Lucy in her arms moments after birth, who had sung her to sleep every night for 3 years, who had wept at her first steps and her first words, that woman was being replaced. Not by another man obsession. I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I began to document the shifts in her schedule, the increasing frequency of her late nights at the office. The way she held her phone, angled away from me, her thumbs moving rapidly across the screen in conversations I would never be allowed to read. The way Oliver's name, in the ranking above her head, sometimes flickered, as if she was thinking about him so intensely that the list itself struggled to keep up. The financial records were the first hard evidence. Credit card charges for restaurants I had never been to, hotels I had never seen, gifts I had never received. A second phone bill, addressed to a P.O. box in a town 40 miles away, a lease agreement for an apartment in Oliver's name, signed by my wife. The paper trail was meticulous and damning, and the more I gathered, the more I understood. Oliver was not a colleague. He was not a friend. He was the man Ruby had been seeing for the better part of a year, a man whose existence she had hidden so completely that even now, with the evidence spread across our kitchen table, I could barely believe he was real. I hired a private investigator. The report came back in a manila envelope that felt heavier than anything I had ever held. Oliver was 34 years old, a consultant who traveled frequently, and he had been meeting Ruby in hotels across 3 different states. The relationship had begun, the investigator believed, approximately 11 months ago. I had been a fool for nearly a year. That night, I sat Ruby down at the kitchen table. The envelope was between us. Her eyes flicked to it, then back to my face. "I want you to tell me about Oliver," I said. "And this time, I want the truth." Her face crumpled, not with guilt, not at first, but with something that looked almost like relief. "How long have you known?" "Long enough. Start talking." "I met him at a conference. Last year, .IT was supposed to be nothing. Just a conversation, but he listened to me. Adrian, he listened in a way you haven't listened in years. You're always working. You're always tired. You look at me like I'm a piece of furniture, but I didn't mean for it to happen. IT just did. I was lonely. I was so lonely. And he was there, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I let the silence stretch. I had prepared for this moment, rehearsed it in my head 100 times, but nothing had prepared me for the actual sensation of sitting across from the woman I had loved for 5 years and realizing that I didn't recognize her anymore. "Ruby," I said quietly, "I want a divorce." Her head snapped up. "What? No. No, Adrian, I love you. I don't want to lose you. I made a mistake. Please. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Oliver is first on your list. Ruby, he's been first for a week. And Lucy, our daughter, isn't even on your list anymore. I don't know what you've become, but you're not the woman I married. And I'm not going to spend the rest of my life competing with a man I've never met for a place in my own wife's heart." She stared at me. "My list? What are you talking about?" "Your list, the rankings. Everyone has them, but I've been able to see them for weeks. Your mother was first, then me, then Oliver started climbing. And now he's at the top. You replaced me, Ruby. You replaced our daughter, and I don't think there's any coming back from that." Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. There was no defense and explanation. Just the trembling silence of a woman who had been caught in a lie so vast that even she couldn't pretend it wasn't real. The divorce was finalized 4 months later, and the final dissolution of our marriage was almost as quiet as its collapse. Ruby didn't contest custody. She didn't fight for the house. She moved into the apartment she had leased for Oliver, a small, charmless place in a neighborhood she had once told me she would never live in, and I stayed in the home we had built together, raising Lucy alone. Oliver eventually left her. The lists don't lie, and whatever Ruby had felt for him had burned hot and fast, consuming everything in its path before extinguishing itself just as quickly. By the time he was gone, she had no one left. Her mother, upon learning the truth, had demoted her to 9th place, a ranking I saw with my own eyes at the final custody hearing. Lucy is 6 now. She asks about her mother sometimes, and I tell her the gentlest version of the truth I can manage. She doesn't remember the months when her name disappeared from Ruby's list. She doesn't know how close she came to being erased, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure she never feels that kind of absence again. The lists are still there, and I see them everywhere now, above the heads of strangers on the subway, above my colleagues at work, above my daughter as she sleeps, and why mother still has me at number 1. Daniel still has me at number 2. Yuri the bagel guy has promoted me to 5th. And Ruby's list flickers sometimes when I see her at custody exchanges, a faint golden shimmer above her tired, hollow-faced, I don't look anymore, and I don't need to. But once, just once, I caught a glimpse before I turned away. Oliver was gone, her mother was gone, and the top 5 spots were all blank. I don't know what that means, that I don't know if the lists show love or attention or something stranger and harder to name, but I know that I am Lucy's number 1 now, and she is mine. And that, for the rest of my life, will be enough. Pushpin Third-Party Objective Commentary by Dr. Samuel Reeves, cognitive psychologist and author of The Architecture of Obsession. The internal ranking lists case presents a fascinating window into the mechanics of emotional prioritization. The protagonist, let's call him Adrian, experienced what can only be described as a forced confrontation with the mathematical reality of his wife's affections. The brilliance of the ranking system as a narrative device is that it strips away the polite fictions we tell each other. I love you equally, you're my everything, nothing has changed, and replaces them with cold, visible data. What makes this case particularly instructive from a psychological standpoint is the trajectory of Oliver's ascent. He did not leap to first place overnight. He climbed, each day, a small increment. Each day, a choice Ruby made to think about him, to prioritize him, to invest emotional energy in him rather than in her husband or her daughter. Their ranking list functioned as a real-time infidelity detector, and its most damning revelation was not Oliver's eventual dominance but the steady, systematic nature of his rise. The disappearance of Lucy from the list is the detail that transforms this from a story of marital betrayal into something more disturbing. Romantic love can be fickle. We all know this. But maternal attachment is supposed to be the most durable bond in human psychology. For Ruby's daughter to fall off her internal ranking entirely suggests not merely distraction or infatuation, but a fundamental reordering of identity. The woman who erased her child from her heart is a different person from the one who gave birth to her. The blank spaces at the top of Ruby's list in the final scene are, to my mind, the most haunting detail of all. They suggest that whatever capacities she once had for deep attachment has been burned out entirely by guilt, by loss, by the consequences of choices she can never unmake. In the end, the ranking system did not merely expose her betrayal. IT exposed the emptiness she had been trying to fill all along.